Hey everybody, welcome back to some more early morning barking, talking about BPD and MPD by somebody that has both. The theme of the week this week is diagnosis. And I want to talk about diagnosis of cluster B things right now, because this is something that comes up 1,000,000 times per TikTok live stream. This is the main thing people come and ask me is, how do I get a diagnosis of BPD, MPD, whatever, right? Now, it's not that simple, right? It's not that simple at all. There's loads to this. First question, why would you like a diagnosis? Why do you need a diagnosis? What's going on that you feel you need a BPD diagnosis, right? What will it get you? Because it's a very complicated thing. A BPD diagnosis, any cluster B diagnosis is actually a very complicated thing, and it's not easy and straightforward to do. But you've got this problem, right? Problem is, you're in a lot of emotional pain right now. You're suffering, clearly, some sort of mental health problem. And there are things that medical professionals can do for you, be that some form of therapy, medication, whatever, that will be able to help you with that far more quickly than they will be able to say to you, hey, you've got BPD. And whether or not they ever are able to say to you, you've got BPD, it doesn't change the fact that they can help you with whatever it is that you're going through. So why do you need a diagnosis? Why do you need a piece of paper that says you've got BPD? I actually don't have one of those. You see, not only is a diagnosis a really tricky thing, right? Because look, it's not as simple as you would like. It's not as simple as going to a therapist and saying, I feel these things. And them going, yep, that's all the markers of BPD. You've got BPD. Here's that written down on a letter with my name underneath. That's not what happens. We have these 9 markers. You have to display 5 for a prolonged amount of time. They are going to talk to you for weeks. The level of understanding of you and your life that a therapist would have to accurately, or no, not even accurately, but with any hope in hell of being accurate, is intense. There's so much therapy and talking you would have to go through, so much behavior they would have to observe or hear examples of repeated throughout your lifetime. All of this, diagnosing you with a cluster B personality disorder is so hard to do. And all of that time when it's happening, you're in pain. You're suffering. You could be suffering from goodness knows what in terms of how you feel. And to mess about trying to diagnose you pointlessly is something that therapists, that psychologists aren't going to waste time doing. I've said this a lot before. If you feel bad, if you are having uncomfortable mental health problems in your life, you go to your doctor. That's always the place to start with this stuff, right? You go to your GP and they go, yeah, this is either something I can deal with, or they refer you to a specialist. And that's what needs to happen. Your doctor is not going to go, yeah, I think you've got BPD. No way. That's not going to happen. It's just really not. And not only all of that, I mean, that's enough. But on top of that, did you know that mental health professionals are quite, and this is increasingly the case, are quite reluctant to give you a diagnosis, regardless of what it is? Because once they give you one, it tends to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, for example, if you're somebody presenting with 5 BPD markers, right, you can go into therapy, you can get help, you can get all kinds of things to help you out there. Okay, but if they tell you that, hey, you've got BPD, then you're going to start researching BPD. You're going to start finding what all the markers are. You're going to find the 5 that you do, and you're going to then start finding the other 4. Because that's what humans do. It's a phenomenon in training psychologists, that as young training psychologists learn about mental health problems, they start self-diagnosing unnecessarily. It's a known phenomenon. And so no therapist who doesn't need to give you a diagnosis to treat you is going to willingly and eagerly give you a diagnosis. It could hurt you. It could do more harm than good. Now, there are cases, and I would argue I felt like this myself, and no one I was in treatment with said anything bad to me about it at the time, so I'm going to go with it. Framing my mental illness in terms of BPD and MPD did help me, because it gave me a framework to look at. It gave me a known problem to deal with. But I don't class it in any way as self-diagnosis, because it wasn't just me alone on the internet deciding things. I was working with therapists at the time who were working with me on my symptoms, on the things that were coming out with me. I had no doubt at any point about the individual bits that were wrong with me. As I've said before, you were told, well, this thing, it quacks like a duck, it walks like a duck. We're not going to say that it's a duck, but it definitely quacks and walks like one. And then you put the pieces together yourself. It becomes a thing. But that framework did help me. But only so far. And it didn't change what I was doing to fix stuff. Right? I was still in therapy. I was in the therapy already. It made no difference to anything. And I just did more of the therapy, and now I feel better. So, in terms of helping me, saying I have BPD looks good on a YouTube channel. Helps you categorize that stuff. But what do you need a diagnosis for? Unless there's something like for an insurance thing or whatever, you need it written down that you have BPD. Okay, fair enough. That I can see that kind of logistical thing coming up. But in terms of your healing, your well-being, your self-improvement and getting better, why do you need it? It's not something you need to get better. And it's not something that you need to be searching for. My advice is that you look at the problems you have and go and speak to a medical professional about them. You don't need to be able to go and say, I think I have BPD. You need to be able to go to your doctor and say, I feel bad and I don't know why. And they will take it from there. This diagnosis, this label that you want to put on it isn't actually necessarily helpful. Look at self-help, self-care, and look at getting help from outside, because that's the most valuable thing you can have. Okay, I hope that helps. Look out for other diagnosis videos throughout the week, and I will see you later. You take care. Bye-bye.